The story, an urban legend. I think it's probably just legend, but I like it. I'm going to tell it to you this morning. There was a story of a woman who goes into a Haagen-Dazs ice cream place in Kansas City. And as she's placing her order, she turns around and comes face to face with none other than Paul Newman. And Paul Newman, being Paul Newman, he had his effect on her, and he was in town filming, I think it was Mr. and Mrs. Bridge, one of his movies. And, his blue eyes just kind of made her speechless and weak in the knees. And I know I have that effect on people all the time, so I'm used to it. But why are you laughing? Oh, okay. So she finished paying, and she turns around and quickly walks out of the store. And then she gets out of the store and suddenly realizes she doesn't remember where she put her ice cream cone. So she goes back into the store, and on the way back in, she meets Paul Newman coming out with his ice cream cone. And he says to her, are you looking for your ice cream cone? And she's still speechless. She just nods yes. And he says, you put it in your purse with your change. I like that, because when I read the Gospel of Luke, I got to ask, when was the last time that the presence of God caused you to forget the things that were going on around you? Forget the dishes. Forget the mess in the house. Forget your aches, your pains. Forget your bank account. Made you forget where you put your ice cream cone. When you read Luke today, this is one of Luke's themes. If you read a little further on into the 12th chapter, Jesus talks more about, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? We can't do such a thing as that. And here in the 10th chapter of Luke's Gospel, Luke is painting us a picture of two sisters. One very busy, one not so busy. We all know Marys and Marthas in our world, Zoe. We have got the type A and the type B. Martha's the type A. She's jumping around. She's always got something to do, someplace to go, somebody to see. Mary's a little more relaxed. We'd call her a type B. The light turns red, and Mary starts to look around at the buildings, where Martha's grabbing the steering wheel, chomping at the bit, ready to go. We know Mary's, we know Martha's, but there's some other things in this story that are, you gotta wonder. We know for a fact, for instance, that Jesus had sent out the 70, and they had now just returned to him. And Luke doesn't tell us this, but John does, that this house was in a town called Bethany, and that Mary and Martha are Lazarus' sisters. You remember Lazarus, the one Jesus raises from the dead. Mary is the one who is on her knees before Jesus, wiping his feet with her hair and washing him with her tears. It's the same family. And what I got to wonder is, when these 70 came back, all we know from Luke is that they went. Did the 70 show up at Mary and Martha's house? You can see why Martha would have been in a tizzy, couldn't you? Have 70 people, including Jesus, to show up at your house, and the hospitality laws being what they were, you were honor-bound and obligated to take care of these people. So Martha kind of gets a black eye over the centuries, but you got to wonder, even so, to have Jesus show up at your house, what would you do? What would you give him? Would there be a place to sit? Would the dogs behave? Would your house be a mess? Would you have something to serve? See, these are very normal questions for us to ask. And our tendency as people is we want to worry about these kinds of things. It's interesting to me, though, because all of the worry that we do, how many of the things that we worry about actually are things that we can do something about? The things that we can, we do. And the things that we can't, we put them into God's hands. So Martha is about ready to come unglued in this house. because she is now working in the kitchen to serve. And, I could understand maybe Mary, if there was a small group, maybe it was just the 12 disciples that came with Jesus to her house. But still, if it was the 12, I'd look around in my cupboard, I'd say, well, I got some chips, but I got nothing else, so I'm just going to sit and enjoy your company. There was Mary's response. Martha was trying to whip something up. And she finally comes to Jesus in frustration, and you can hear it, Lord, and she presumes to know what he's going to say. And I'm going to paraphrase it, but Lord, I'm doing all this work here, and she's just sitting here, so why don't you tell her to get up and help me? This was the custom. Another strange thing, at least in Jewish eyes, that Jesus was doing, he encouraged not only men to study the Scriptures, but women to study the Scriptures as well.